Okay. Let me know when you guys are ready. Y'all ready? Just talk a little bit. Hello, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
I'm trying to move over.
I'm doing a mic check. Mic check, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Good?
Testing.
Everybody good?
Everybody good?
Anytime.
I can start? Okay. How you doing, everybody? Welcome today. We're here for the CTA. We're here talking about Dan Fryer. He's a whistleblower. He was a vested driver of 20 years plus with the CTA. He lost his job because of Rahm Emanuel's political influence and interference. All employment for his own agenda. Daniel Fryer, a vested driver of 20 years plus with the CTA, lost his job because of Rahm Emanuel's political influence and interference with deployment for his own agenda. Losing his job made him homeless from 2016 to 2019. Thanks to the help of the VA, they helped him maintain, still, even to this day, Dan Fryer has been retaliated against by Rahm Emanuel and his people. So here today, I'm going to introduce to you the whistleblower, Daniel Fryer.
Good day. Can you all hear me pretty good? Okay. Can you all hear me now? Okay. Thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Fryer, D-A-N-I-E-L, F-R-Y-A-R. Here today to finally be able to have the chance to report yes, I am a whistleblower. I blew the whistle on Rahm Emanuel back in like 2015 to current. In that time, yes, as it was mentioned here, to this day I'm still pretty much being retaliated against. Now, with the help of my union local president, my chances of returning to work are still being delayed. Now, today we're going to get through the specifics of this. I have with me my former union representative. His name is Gus Stevens. Today we're going to cover the following. We're going to cover exactly what it was I blew the whistle on. Those involved in the retaliation of my return to work. So if you would, I would like to introduce Mr. Gus Stevens, former union rep. He will get into it and explain a little further, and I'll be back.
Good day, everyone. My name is Gus Stevens. I am a retired union representative for the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 241. And I represented people for many years, and I do a lot of consulting with AT Local 241. Where I come in Mr. Dan Fryer's situation is Mr. Dan Fryer and we did some research, and this is about political corruption from former Mayor Rahm Emanuel. His involvement with the Chicago Transit Authority goes real deep and intrinsic. Now, it is a known factor that the mayor of Chicago has... Put the cup down. Oh. Sorry about that. Okay. It is a known factor that the mayor of Chicago has appointed the chief executive officer of CTA for many years, the mayor, whoever it was. Okay. In this case, we're talking about Rahm Emanuel, his appointment of Mr. Forrest Claypool. Mr. Forrest Claypool was running a department for the Park District. And what he did is he eliminated all union contracts, union plumbers, and contractors, and carpenters, and got rid of them. He privatized that. So now Rahm Emanuel's got a long history with Forrest Claypool, and he appoints him as Chief Executive Officer of this CTA. Now where this comes in, Rahm Emanuel, his involvement, Mr. Dan Fryer, Rahm Emanuel, as we all know, Chief Executive Officer of the City of Chicago. And many of the properties that the city owns, such as school properties, okay? One of them was at 87th and South Kirkwood, a school property. 83rd? Okay. Well, it was a property, a school property. And this school property was owned by the City of Chicago. This school property was open for bid. Now, many years ago, we had a situation where a lot of political pundits, a lot of religious leaders went and begged Mr. Rahm Emanuel not to close the public schools like he had planned. He closed 54 of them. Now you can put it together, you can draw the analogy, you can be anecdotal or not, but one of these properties, many of them, went up for bidding, for sale, to private and public entities. And this one particular school property was up for bid with a tycoon, a real estate tycoon, and a church organization. And the church organization won the bid for, I think it was 5 or 10,000, something of that nature. And all of a sudden, the bid was removed. And Mr. Fryer found that out, and so did I. The bid was removed, and then there was a sponsorship letter by Rahm Emanuel stating that I'm sponsoring the sale of this school property to ATU Local 241. Now, in comes the involvement of a school property. Wait a minute now. There's a sponsorship letter saying that the sale is he's going to sponsor the sale to ATU Local 241, when supposedly the bid for that property was already won. The bid was already won. Now, enter the particulars. Who's involved with this property? Is this property, was it up for sale? When you look at the bidding procedure of the property, now you see that there's 2 different PIN numbers. And these PIN numbers are associated with the property as far as who's paying the tax on it. Now all of a sudden when you look it up, it was taken off the real estate market, and you don't know for sure who still owns the property. So until we know for sure, we just have to say that the property still belongs to the City of Chicago. But now what is Rahm Emanuel's involvement with this? Now when Mr. Fryer found out about this stuff, and he blew the whistle on him, that ended his chance to try to get back to work at CTA. Because now, is there union involvement? Is there involvement of the CTA? We don't know. Now, another thing that goes with this, I have here Mr. Fryer's complete work record. And in this work record, it shows where he was brought up on charges of rule violations. And at no point in time, being a union representative, which I was Mr. Fryer given the chance to correct his behavior. And they usually do that in CTA. It's called the Employee Assistance Program. He was denied the right to go to employee assistance to straighten his record out so he can be okay. Now what CTA does traditionally with people who worked, former employees of the company, what they do is they classify you in certain code categories. And there's a code called 0699. This 0699 is a do not hire code. It's in your work record, your work history. It just so happens Mr. Fryer had gotten employment prior to CTA tagging him with this employment history code 0699. Once you get a 0699 from a transportation company, you won't be able to work for no one. But that wasn't associated with him at that time. He got a job, and they looked at his records. Now, I had a conversation with the president of Local 241. Right? and president of 221, Mr. Hill, okay? Mr. Keith David Hill, Keith D. Hill, and I was calling him in regards to a friend of mine's resume because he wanted to get employment. And so Mr. Hill said, yeah, no problem. We'll put this forward and see what happened. So I'm calling him to find out what happened to that resume. That's where the conversation started, out of the clear blue. Mr. Hill said, don't get on Mr. Dan Fryer's bandwagon because I've got a lot on him. Why would he tell me that? When the conversation had nothing to do with Mr. Dan Fryer. It had to do with my friend trying to get employment. So now we tie everything together. Now you can suppose, you can do any type of analytical, anecdotal analysis, but the fact that he found out about Mr. Rahm Emanuel's involvement in the sale of school properties, wow. And going back to the press conference that they had with all of the religious leaders and other political people, the pundits that said, please, Mr. Rahm Emanuel, do not sell these schools. Because what Mr. Rahm Emanuel did, this is another unscrupulous activity. If you remember that we used to have public schools, private schools, but what he did by creating this environment, he created and opened the door for chartered public schools. That eliminates public instruction. And Mr. Fryer found that out. So he blew the whistle on this whole thing. So now he's got a bad mark on him because of Rahm Emanuel and his involvement. We don't know how far Rahm Emanuel goes with this. Now, we have something here called the RICO Act. And the RICO Act talks about all kinds of corruption. It doesn't have to be mob-related, but just corruption. Now there's a thing called SLAPP, and that stands for Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation. Public participation right here. We're talking about political corruption from a We're talking about political corruption from a former mayor of the city of Chicago getting involved in stuff like this. This man's rights, his basic rights under the U.S. Constitution, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 13th, and 14th Amendment were violated. In particular, in the 9th Amendment of the U.S. Federal Constitution, there's a premise called ex post facto. And what that basically means is this: what you agree to today is fine. But now we agreed to this today. Today's Wednesday. Now we're going to come back, and now today is not Wednesday. Today is Thursday. We're going to use what happened Wednesday that we agreed to against you and prosecute you for it. And that's exactly what happened to Mr. Dan Fryer. So if you need any more input, I can give you a lot more. But a lot of things doesn't add up. And we have to find out what's going on with Mr. Rahm Emanuel, because he thinks he can get away with this. Now, I disagree with a lot of people. This is not pretty much a mark against CTA. This is against Rahm Emanuel and his political corruption. That I want everybody to understand. Because I do not want to cause an influx or any problems with the organization I worked for almost 30 years. I think it's a good company overall, but I don't like the mayor's involvement. Now, this is nothing on any other previous mayors. This is only about Rahm Emanuel. What happened with this guy? Is there a federal probe going on? Right now, it could be with the FBI, it could be with the U.S. Attorney's Office, it could be with the state of Illinois, Attorney General. There's a lot of areas looking into this man, what he did. And he's still on radio and TV trying to become a political advisor. I find that very questionable. Okay.
Okay. According to, as Mr. Stevens has said, he has laid out quite a few things pertaining to a lot of federal laws and federal charges that will come up. Okay. One one of the perfect examples of what he was speaking of was I got accused of having multiple felonies, and it was said that the Chicago Transit Authority had found these felonies and all these unusual charges. Unbecoming of my behavior. Okay, recently, within the last couple of weeks or so, I had an actual phone hearing, if you would like to call it that, with the Chicago Transit Authority. The Chicago Transit Authority was very clear that they did not say that they had found any kind of felonious charges or anything like that. But what they did find is still questionable due to the fact that, as he has said, it is under ex post facto, which means you cannot retroactively charge or punish somebody for a crime. Well, I won't say crimes, but for anything that was handled legally in the past. There are no second chances. Okay? So I had to ask pardon, and again, I will ask pardon to the Chicago Transit Authority on that part, as far as now that I have an understanding where these accusations have really originated from. It didn't originate from Chicago Transit Authority, it originated from my union local president, Mr. Keith Hill. Where this information or wherever this is that he has it coming from, I have no idea. I also owe a degree of thanks to the police departments and the Circuit Court of Cook County for their efforts and time to help me to try to figure out what these charges are that are said by my union president that I have. They even went to the extreme as far as the courts. They gave me proof of there's nothing. I'm not even in the criminal system. Now the question is standing, where is this coming from? And yes, I will be demanding an answer. Where are these coming from? Okay? Yes, I blew the whistle on Rahm Emanuel, but let this be an example of those, what's a term called collusion. This is a perfect example of that. I have trusted my union president when I told him that I blew the whistle on Rahm Emanuel. His claim, and this is via text messages, he said he knew nothing about it. 3 to 4 months later, I received a contractual agreement between Rahm Emanuel, which is a sponsorship, for the sale of this property on 83rd and Kerfoot. Now, I need you all to understand one thing. This is a big union. We don't need sponsorship whatsoever. So, where does this sponsorship come in? Okay, we have had a big battle about this, from the social medias to in person, even to the point where this union president actually came to my job that is non-CTA related. And it nearly turned into a brawl.
City council.
And it turned into a mere brawl on my job. I nearly got sent home for that. Okay, and it actually did get recorded. Okay, and the recording did leak. Okay, so again, there's something wrong here. Okay, now he has another. He's going to fill in his part of this issue.
Well, the problem is that I was alluding to Mr. Fryer. Now, we have to find out what is the Chicago's mayor's city council. What is their involvement in this? Back when Rahm Emanuel was president of Chicago, I mean, you know, he was the mayor, chief executive officer. What involvement did the city council have in Mr. Fryer's case? Because if indeed what Mr. Fryer is saying, and we feel we have enough evidentiary materials to implicate Mr. Rahm Emanuel, and if that takes place, then there's a lot of members of the city council that could go down under investigation. And this is what we're pushing on. As I alluded to in front of...
So, we got it. So where do we go from here?
Okay, here's where we go from here. We're waiting on several probes. We're waiting on the FBI. We're waiting...
How long is the FBI? How long has that been?
That's been going on, to my knowledge, about a month or two, something like that. About maybe 2. So we won't know until we hear from them. Now, supposedly there is another probe with the U.S. Attorney. There's another probe going on with the state of Illinois in the Chief Executive Officer of the state of Illinois, the Attorney General office. So we won't know until perhaps, I'm just guesstimating, I don't know. It could be a month down the road, 2 months, we won't know. But the FBI says that they're going to act, but they won't tell us until they actually do it. See? And then we'll get more input from the U.S. Attorney, because the U.S. Attorney is waiting for information coming from the state of Illinois and the Attorney General's office, because he's not going to act until he gets everything from this district, because they're all going to work together. Because when it comes to, well, who's got jurisdiction?
Yeah, we understand all that.
Okay, but this is what you asked the question as
The
when.
question is, where are we going from here?
What we're going here is once
So investigations can take years.
we don't know.
What are you going to do in the meantime?
In the okay, in the meantime, that's where the lawsuits are coming, and
Have you filed a lawsuit? When did you file?
right now he's Mr. Fire's being interviewed by other attorneys.
When did you file a lawsuit?
Well, the lawsuit has been filed, and I'm being interviewed by the attorneys because
So you can't come out.
So
when did you file a lawsuit?
No, the lawsuit hasn't been quite filed yet because they still need more evidence of, pertaining to my case. They have a large amount of it, but there's still yet, pretty much we still
So they
need
still
this.
gathering other information.
Say again?
They still gathering information. The
Correct.
person who's gathering information.
Right, and I didn't
really.
really,
U.S. Attorney.
right, well, they have to file in federal court now. Okay, there's no one there. We thought that we could go to another court, like the Daily Center or something.
Is there anything else we can?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. I'm not the only one.
We want to keep these sound bites now.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, the only thing that I ask for is the continued help of law enforcement to help bring this to light. Okay? I'm also asking for anybody else from CTA that is not back to work yet. If you all feel that you all are not being properly represented, if there's no communication, or there's nothing going on similar to what it is I'm going through, please come forward and say something. Okay, yes, I'm not the only one, but what I'm looking for is more investigation. I'm looking to have more light shedded on this issue. This issue has been going on for exactly 4 years plus now. Okay, and we have not been able to get this out into the open, and we have not been able to get this reported. So, and yes, this is still continuing. Okay, all I ask is for, we have to keep this going.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the press conference. I guess that's it. Thank you, everybody.
I like him. It's
You
important.
guys are talking too much. You got to keep taking the sound bite. He's a newspaper guy.
Right.
That's good. But the TV, short sound bite.
Okay. Well,
So
this
you got people. Once I get this to somebody, they're not going to go.
They're going to edit it.
They're not going to sit there. And you need to talk to some investigative reporters.
Right.
All right. We're just camping.
Right. Well,
So-
that's a good education.
Well, they're probably going to edit it, so we don't know if it's going to be on TV.
We don't even know if it's going to be aired. Hey, D, don't move those mics.
Okay. Sounds pretty good, though. It's good, though.
Well, I wanted to make it categorically clear so that
Get my
these,
picture, get my picture. Get my picture.
I wanted everybody to know that this was about
Come get more closer, more closer.
I don't know if you all saw the lady that was standing here.
Tell me, right here.
That lady is a representative of the CTA.
Oh, what she said?
She just recorded everything.
She recorded everything for CTA.
She held the
Okay?
camera like this.
She's stinky.
Yeah.
No. She talked to me. She asked, well, what's this about? I said, well, if you listen, you'll find out.
Also, CTA was recording us the whole time. The lady represented.
Yes.
She had her phone like you saw it.
I saw over there. I didn't see her with the
No,
phone.
she recorded us the whole time. The lady was
I don't know if you saw
I
it.
didn't know
Maybe
who
it was
she
standing there.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, D.
Thanks.